Imagine a vast region, comparable in size to Grizzly Hills, but entirely consumed by one colossal city. It's a sprawling expanse of plazas, ziggurats, towering walls, and aqueducts that seem to stretch endlessly. Throughout the city, massive altars stand prominently, starting from the second tier of Zul'Drak and reaching upward. These altars were once sacred places where the Drakkari fervently worshipped the wild gods, or as the trolls called them, Loa. Magni Bronzebeard attests that the entire place is saturated with a dark energy and an aura of death, not stemming from the scourge, but rather from the profound suffering of these gods, casting a haunting stain upon the land. Drakkari ice trolls rule the land from their capital, Gundrak. While it lacks the magnificence of storm peaks or the warmth of Grizzly Hills, this troll-dominated zone draws few visitors, except for bold explorers seeking encounters with the Drakkari. The Argent Stand returns to play a crucial role, alongside the Zandalar tribe aiming to preserve the Drakkari history. Zul'Drak itself is a monument to a shattered civilization. As players venture into the zone, they witness the encroaching scourge, especially around the besieged Argent Stand. Amidst the chaos, conflicts erupt between diverse factions, with crazed Drakkari, Nerubians, and water elementals summoned by the desperate trolls. The weakened forms of the Drakkari's Loa linger in the northeast, near Gundrak, while a scourge-controlled blight zone casts its shadows south of Ebon Watch, near Drak'tharon Keep. During a meeting of the troll tribes held during Cataclysm, it is revealed by Prophet Zol that Zul'Drak had fallen to the scourge. After the war against the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers ventured into the region. Their report painted a picture of Zul'Drak succumbing to ruin, having long been overrun by the scourge. With the surviving Drakkari scattered and undead wandering freely, the brothers approached with caution, marveling at the sights from a safe distance. Unsurprisingly, the remnants revealed numerous Drakkari artifacts waiting to be discovered. Additionally, the brothers noted the undead ice trolls pouring from Drak'tharon Keep had a singular focus to utterly destroy Zul'Drak. Long ago, Drak'tharon Keep stood as a stalwart fortress on the fringes of the Drakkari trolls' realm Zul'Drak. A bastion that once defended the trolls, it now finds itself in the clutches of the Lich King following a relentless scourge onslaught. The fallen defenders of the keep, transformed into undead minions, march relentlessly into the heart of Drakkari territory. In the face of the scourge invasion, the Drakkari resisted fiercely, even managing to bring down the necropolis Kolramas. Yet the crash did not extinguish all threats, as the Hathar Nerubians, under the control of the sinister Malus the Corruptor, survived and began raising the dead. The desperate struggle for survival unfolded as the Drakkari sought to exact more power from their ancient gods, resorting to subduing and sacrificing them. The wild deity's potent blood became a crucial resource to repel the encroaching Lich King's forces. Amidst the turmoil, brave adventurers ventured into the besieged region, clashing with the savage Drakkari and their deranged prophets. However, whispers circulated of a greater peril lying dormant within Gundrak, the capital of the Ice Trolls' empire. Deep within the city, sacred shrines resonated with the mojo of slain gods, empowering twisted Drakkari high prophets. Unchecked, these prophets could unleash chaos, plunging the entire region into turmoil. In a desperate bid to combat the scourge, the trolls of Zul'Drak attempted to summon water elementals, inadvertently birthing malevolent water wavelings. Amidst these events, the Zandalari of Zim Torga watched with keen interest, seeking to preserve the unraveling history of the Drakkari tribe before it vanished forever. The looming threat of madness and the impending obliteration of their legacy drive the Zandalari to salvage what they can from the clutches of chaos. Within Zul'Drak, they have various shrines to different Loas, and I feel they each deserve to be talked about due to how important the Loa are to troll culture, and it being a big part of the zone. The Loa that are being worshipped here are Har'koa, Mam'toth, Quetz'lun, Rhunok, and Sseratus. The altar of Har'koa is located northeast of Kolramas in Zul'Drak. Har'koa's prophet, instead of sacrificing her, felt it would be better to hold her captive, possibly to drain her slowly and still get her power instead of outright sacrificing her and getting her power that way. They don't really say specifically that I could find, but that's my guess. When the Drakkari turned against their gods, Har'koa stood as the last one to be subdued. The trolls swiftly harnessed her power to curse her own children. Witch Doctor Khufu managed to reach out to other gods, prompting adventurers to come to Har'koa's aid. Once her children were freed, Har'koa directed the adventurers to assist other Loa like Rhunok, Quetz'lun, and Akali. However, she couldn't help some, like Mam'toth, which saddened her deeply. In a twist, Akali met his end at the hands of his prophet. Har'koa and Witch Doctor Khufu teamed up to ensure the prophet's demise. Personally joining the fight, she guided adventurers to make sure the prophet was defeated. After this, she sent them to meet Tolmar, who instructed them to dismantle the Gundrak leadership. She also has a mate named Loknahak, who can be found in Sholazar Basin. Once, the altar of Mam'toth stood proud, a temple nestled southeast of Zol'Maz Stronghold. Its purpose? To sacrifice the Mammoth god. However, when Mam'toth discovered the sinister plot of his worshippers to sacrifice him and seize his power, he took matters into his own hands, metaphorically. Mam'toth obliterated himself, his temple, and all those present, birthing the Mam'toth crater in the aftermath. Now all that lingers is a crater teeming with an eerie blue ooze, which is what remained of his blood, a haunting reminder of his sacrificial demise. His children can be found trampling the formal disciples around the crater. After the war against the jailers, the Bronzebeard brothers visited the altar and reported that the crater was still crawling with his blood. However, there is a bright side. While thought to be gone forever, his spirit is recovering in a wild seed in the tranquil pools of Ardenweald. The altar of Quetz'lun stands as a temple devoted to the wind serpent goddess herself. Guarded by formidable wind serpents and air wardens, this place exudes an air of divine protection. When the Drakkari, facing the scourge invasion, resorted to sacrificing their Loa, Quetz'lun took drastic measures. She conjured a private underworld nightmare just before her physical form succumbed to destruction. In this dark realm, she ensnared her former worshippers and high priests, ensuring they faced the consequences of their betrayal. Surprisingly, her prophet managed to evade this fate. Later, her spirit aided the adventurers in seeking vengeance upon her prophet. Through a ritual, she was summoned into the material realm, enabling her to reclaim her power from the prophet. With her restored strength, she drew him into her underworld domain, perpetually condemning him to eternal and repetitive demise. In the aftermath of the Jailers' War, the Bronzebeard brothers explored the altar. Their report? The temple stands strong. Wind serpents still grace its presence, and an eerie aura persists in the air. In the chilly reaches of Zul'Drak, the altar of Rhunok stands, an icy temple dedicated to honoring him, the Arctic bear god. Surrounded by vast stretches of snow, it befits the realm of this polar bear deity. As the Drakkari turned to sacrificing their Loa to combat the encroaching scourge, Rhunok faced a grim fate. His physical form endured, kept alive by his corrupted followers, while his spirit remained trapped and tormented, relegated to the role of a helpless spectator. A group of brave adventurers emerged as saviors, putting an end to Rhunok's prolonged suffering and released him from his torment. He tells you that it needs to be done, and he apologizes as he fights back, saying, "Even for me, the will to survive is strong." However, upon returning the quest to Har'koa, she says, he someday will return, and his spirit will live forever. You'll find Sseratus at the altar of Sseratus, the Drakkari Loa of serpents and snakes. However, a visit reveals that the physical form of this Loa is no more. When the scourge invaded and they began sacrificing their Loa, Sladran, the high prophet of Sseratus, reluctantly played his part in this grim ritual. Though he took no joy in ending his god's existence, he believed it could save their home. In a strange twist, the sacrifice transformed him into something half-serpent, imbued with Sseratus's immense power. Fueled by anger at the scourge, he vowed vengeance for what they compelled him to do to the Loa. In the aftermath of the war against the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers explored the altar of Sseratus. The report detailed the lingering remnants of Sseratus's physical form, skin and bone still visible within the temple. Answering Har'koa's call, daring adventurers embarked on a mission to liberate Akali from his chains from in front of Gundrak. In a swift turn of events, Akali overcame those who sought to subdue him, only to be betrayed by his own prophet. The cunning prophet, coveting Akali's potent blood, orchestrated his demise to absorb a portion of the Loa's formidable power. The Argent Stand, a stronghold of the Argent Crusade in Zul'Drak, has an interesting origin. It was crafted within a Drakkari structure that may have once served as an open-air market. The heart of the Argent Stand doubles as an inn, offering a welcome haven for rest. During the war against the Lich King, the Argent Crusade strategically chose this location to fend off the Scourge and protect the second tier of Zul'Drak. Despite initial setbacks, the Crusaders remained steadfast, refusing to surrender. Post the conflict with the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers noted the Argent Stand's enduring strength. This heavily fortified enclave continues to house a resilient population of Crusaders battling the Scourge, a safe enough place for rest even though the sounds of battle persist as the undead relentlessly test the fortifications. Kolramas, A necropolis now lies fallen and tainted south of the altar of Har'koa. The very air surrounding it reeks of blight. When the scourge descended upon Zul'Drak, the Drakkari refused to yield, opting to bring down Kolramas. However, the crash didn't silence all the Hathar and Arubians within. Led by Mam'toth the Corruptor, undead Hathar and Arubians emerged, and Hathar necromagi wasted no time raising the fallen, including unfortunate crusaders. Later, the Bronzebeard brothers observed the haunting sight. Wreckage protrudes from the landscape. A sickly yellow blight continues to spread from its tainted remains. Standing tall, this formidable fortress holds within its walls a tale steeped in blood and darkness. News of adventurers' exploits in the region prompted the Drakkari warlord Zol'Maz to seek refuge within the stronghold, guarding his family in the process. However, Zol'Maz held a key crucial for the liberation of the last surviving Loa, Akali, prompting the Loa Har'koa to dispatch adventurers on a mission. To breach the enchanted defenses and access the stronghold, the adventurers faced a harrowing task: eliminate Zol'Maz's entire family before confronting the enraged warlord himself. Following the war against the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers reported that the grounds remained under vigilant watch, patrolled by warriors adorned with enchanted masks. During the fight against the Lich King, the ancient ice troll stronghold fell into the clutches of the scourge, all thanks to the betrayal orchestrated by a troll named Drakkari. With the fortress now serving as their sinister base, the scourge unleashed an invasion upon Zul'Drak, and the undead Drakkari ice trolls spilled forth from Drak'tharon Keep into the Grizzly Hills, wreaking havoc on the Furbolg. Strangely, the invasion was falsely attributed to the Drakkari, not the scourge. The once leader of Drak'tharon Keep, the prophet Tharanja, underwent a grim transformation into a colossal skeletal wind serpent. He directed his minions toward Zul'Drak, aiming to conquer the ancient ice troll empire. It's worth noting that Drak'tharon Keep was near Mal'Ganis' base during the Third War, where he supposedly met his demise at the hands of Arthas wielding Frostmourne. Years after the war against the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers reported that Drak'tharon Keep still remained under the control of the Scourge. The undead Drakkari's primary objective appeared to be complete destruction of Zul'Drak. Within the keep, you face 4 bosses that must be conquered. First, you encounter Trollgore. This massive creature realized its legendary fierceness couldn't match the might of the Lich King. Now, it stands as a grim reminder to anyone daring to challenge Arthas' rule. Then you move on to Novos the Summoner, always on the lookout for opportunities, yearning to transcend his ordinary existence. In a daring move, the cultist cut out his own heart, offering the still-beating organ to his master just moments before his demise. This bold act left a lasting impression, and his master, in response, transformed him into a lich. You then have the option to face King Dread, a legend among the Drakkari. There's a story of a hunting party finding Dread in a habitat saturated with the Scourge plague. The trolls trained him in hopes that he would have a cure for the devastating plague in their land. The final boss of the dungeon is the Prophet Tharanja. This enigmatic Drakkari troll prophet, embodying the imposing form of a colossal skeletal wind serpent akin to the avatar of Hakar, renowned for stripping the flesh from even the mightiest ice troll warriors. The Prophet Tharanja stands as a chilling figure. Perched upon the upper tiers of the fortress, he oversees the relentless surge of undead trolls streaming from the keep's corridors, reinforcing the Scourge in their relentless assault on Zul'Drak. Within the ominous Drak'tharon Keep, Tharanja underwent a transformation, aligning himself with the Scourge as an undead ally. Now there is another dungeon, and that is the capital of Zul'Drak, which is Gundrak. Deep within the city's recesses, the sacred shrines are believed to be saturated with the potent mojo of gods laid to rest. Enveloped in this ominous energy, the corrupted Drakkari high prophets thrive, steadily amplifying their influence over devoted followers, granting them unparalleled strength. Should this ominous power remain unchecked, the trolls of Gundrak may soon unleash their growing might, throwing the entire region into disarray. The Grand Mosaic Circle, situated before Gundrak's steps, serves as the final sanctuary for the twisted Drakkari prophets and their Loa, the rhino god Akali. Before liberation could be achieved, Akali fell victim to his prophet, who consumed his blood and seized his divine power. For a time, the high prophets Galdara, Morabi, and Sladrin held Gundrak, but the reign was ultimately brought to an end by daring adventurers. After the war against the jailer, the Bronzebeard brothers ventured to Gundrak and delivered a somber report. The once thriving capital, the pulsating heart of Zul'Drak, had been reduced to mere ruins. Now the only inhabitants were the echoes of the dead and the haunting presence of the undead. Now within Gundrak, there are 4 bosses you will always have to kill, but then there's one optional boss that you can do on heroic difficulty. The 4 consistent bosses are Sladren, the Drakkari Colossus, Morabi, and Galdara, and then the optional boss is Ek the Ferocious. Now Sladren took no pleasure in sacrificing Loa he had served his whole life, but he felt he had no other choice. After sacrificing his Loa Sseratus and feeling the power surge through his body, he swore that the Scourge would suffer for the atrocities the Drakkari trolls were forced to commit. We then have the Drakkari Colossus. The trolls' mastery of Mojo and their voodoo magic has been a long-standing tradition. However, they achieved a groundbreaking feat by combining these magical forces to form a golem. The initial triumph paved the way for the birth of countless sentinels, all born from the very first creation, the formidable Colossus. Then you move on to Morabi. Once a high prophet of Mam'toth, the Drakkari mammoth god, Morabi is a Drakkari ice troll with a shadowed past. In a desperate move to combat the relentless scourge threat encroaching upon Drakkari lands, the tribe sacrificed Mam'toth along with their other animal gods. The grim ritual resulted in the death of the god, transferring Mam'toth's immense power directly into the high prophet Morabi. So while Mam'toth did sacrifice himself and to ensure that his power wouldn't be used by the trolls, the problem was that with his blood being left behind, the prophet was able to actually take the blood and get his power anyways. So that's how he was able to actually get Mam'toth's strength and power without performing the big ritual. Or they had to perform a ritual with the blood, but either way, Mam'toth didn't have to be around for them to actually perform the ritual, they just needed his blood. But Mam'toth did take a lot of them with him. But now let's move on to the final boss. Meet Galdara. In the face of the Scourge invasion in Zul'Drak, the Drakkari sought the aid of their Loa. However, their approach was far from the typical plea. Instead, they arrived armed with blades. With Akali, their god, falling victim to this brutal betrayal, the High Prophet Galdara and his conspirators seized the Loa's strength, drawing power from the bloodshed. Now we have the extra boss you can do if you're on heroic difficulty, Ek. The Drakkari, after a series of unsuccessful attempts to weaponize their Gorlock experiment, decided to lock them away. While the Frost Trolls engaged in fierce combat against the invading Scourge, Ek and his minions patiently bided their time, anticipating the eventual release from their confinement. And that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you did enjoy. Zul'Drak was a lot darker than I remember, although to be honest, I don't really remember much of the older lore, so doing all this is quite fun for me to learn all of this. But I'm quite enjoying going back and finding out all this new information that isn't really new, but is new to me. So hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Do take care of yourself. Thanks for watching.